Hello! Today I have a little building tutorial for you. We're going to be looking at stacked lots. I am preparing for making another speed build video in Veronaville, and it's actually the house that you're seeing behind me right now. And for that reason, I felt like a tutorial about how to use this building technique was necessary. So what is stacked lots? Well, basically it's several lots that you have on the same space on the map. So if you take a closer look at the house that I have here, at first you might notice that it's two houses stuck together like this. So we have one house here and one house here. But what you don't see is that there's actually also two community lots here. We have one here and we have another one here. And that's actually the lowest layer down here is one community lot. And this one is also one. And then on the upstairs, we have two residential lots. This is just an example that I wanted to show you before we get started, just so you can get an idea of what it would look like, what it would work like. And why would you want to do this? Well, I think that many of us simmers who have been sitting down and played with own businesses have had the thought that it would be nice to have an own business at the ground level of a house and then a residential lot on top of it. But the issue with having a home business and trying to utilize that is, well, there's several issues really. One thing is that you're going to be playing the business at the same time as you're playing the family, and that can get a bit messy. Also, there's going to be issues with where the visitors can go in the house and where your family should go. And third, of course, unless you use a mod to be able to visit your neighbors, you're not going to be able to visit the community lot that's an owned house, a home business. So this solution resolves all of those issues, that you can actually have a family living on top of the house, and then they travel to their business, but then they're actually just going downstairs to the business lot that's downstairs. This is not something that I came up with myself, huge disclaimer. This technique was first published, as far as I know, by Thread and Sandpaper back in 2014. So it's quite a while ago, and that is a great tutorial that's in written form that you can follow step by step. So I'm going to link to that source material down in the video description if you want to take a closer look at that. So without further ado, let's move to a test neighborhood and let's get started. All right, so just to preface this, another disclaimer, this is not a beginner-friendly tutorial. You're going to be using two techniques that I consider to be pretty advanced, and that's the constrained floor elevation sheet, and you're going to be utilizing Motilda's LotAdjuster. So those two things you might want to take a look at before starting with this. And if you're interested in the constrained floor elevation sheet, there's tons of different guides online. If you want one in a video format, I released a video on that a few years ago that might be useful. And in case you want to know more about the LotAdjuster, I'd recommend checking out T-Addict's guide on that. It's really great. So you're gonna learn how to change sizes of lots and move them in neighborhood as well. So that's going to be necessary before we start this. But if you are already familiar with that, let's just get going. As you might understand then, you're going to be needing Motilda's LotAdjuster in order to do this. You're also going to need to have Numenor's unleveled walls. And that's a different kind of wall that you can place down that allows you to build things without the walls getting messed up in the process. So in this instance, in order to be able to comfortably put down windows and doors on the ground floor level and so on, I think there might be other reasons as well, you are going to need this kind of wall. And the easiest way to install it that I recommend is using the scriptorium. That allows you to just drag and drop the files into a specific folder, and then it's installed in your game automatically. You don't have to go into any game files and overwrite anything. So highly recommend getting the scriptorium. Another thing you're gonna need is an invisible fence. And I'm gonna leave my recommendation for an invisible fence down in the description below, because it is not only zero cost, like it's going to be free to place it down. It's also without a mesh, so you're not going to get this strange shadow when you place it down. So it's going to be completely invisible. Lastly, there's something that's optional. You don't have to do this, but there's actually also a fix that the Thread and Sandpaper is linking to in the written down instructions for this that allows you to adjust where the sun is shining down onto the lots from. So when you enter the lot, you're going to have the shadows cast in the same direction as they are in neighborhood view. And that's going to make it so that when you stack several lots onto each other, the shadows are going to go in the same direction. So that's something that you might want to get as well in case you want to do this. It's not necessary, but it's recommended. So with that done, we're going to start with placing down lots. And I have a piece of road here in front of me. And something that I have been realizing as I've been trying this out is that it might be worthwhile paying attention to where you are placing down the lots and what the roads look like. Say, for example, that I would like the houses to be placed right here. You're going to have an intersection in the middle, and the first lot that you place down, unless you move it, that's going to have the correct road to it. But then if you place down the second lot that you're going to place on top of it later, down here, for example, you're not going to have the correct road pattern. So it might be worthwhile to figure out how to align it with the roads as well, so that you have the first lot here, let's say, and then you place down the second one here so that the pattern looks the same. Also remember to place down the lots in the same direction that they will end up later, because otherwise the shadows won't be cast in the correct directions. You're also going to think about what kind of lot you're going to make. I'm going to be showing you the same example as Thread and Sandpaper used in the tutorial, but as you saw in Veronaville, there's several different ways of doing this. So you need to figure out how you want to create the build and what the lots should look like, what size they're going to be and so on. That decides what kind of lot you're going to place down. So in this example, we're going to use this, but the size that we're going to end up with is not going to be this size. It's actually going to end up being a sixth of its original size. So basically, I'm going to take it in both to the left, the right, and the back. So it's just a little small square. And that's going to be one of the community lots. And just for simplicity's sake, let's use this kind of road that's just a straight road with no specials to it. So I'm going to start by placing this down here. And it's going to be a community lot then. And I'm going to start by naming it 0. That allows it to jump to the top of the LotAdjuster later in the list, so it's easier to find. And then I'm going to describe what I'm going to do with this lot. So I'm going to be minusing 1, and that's actually 10 tiles technically, but it's like one slot in neighborhood view, you could say. And it's going to be right, back, and left. And I'm going to allow this lot to sit exactly where it is. So I'm just going to name it this and be done with that. Then we're going to have a second lot that looks exactly the same. And I'm going to put it down next to it. It's also going to be a community lot. And I'm naming it a 0, -1, right, back, left. But this one actually has to move a little, because I want it to be sort of adjacent to the one next to it. And then the question is, how many tiles will that be? Well, it's going to be one slot smaller than it is already. You see, when you move the lots like this is one slot. This is 10 tiles if you go down to the lot. So if this is the true edge that I'm going to use, you know, it's going to start here technically. And this one is going to end up here once it's shrunk. So if you move it to the left in order to get it right next to the other one, it's going to be 1, 2 slots. Then they're going to be adjacent. And that means that I'm going to be moving this lot 2 steps to the left. And I'm going to rename the lot to reflect that as well, to left. And that's what you want to do to make things easier for yourself when you go over to the LotAdjuster. And finally, we're going to have a residential lot on top of this. That lot's not going to be a 10 by 10 as these two are. It's actually going to be a 20 by 10. So for that reason, I would have needed a lot that was just one slot larger than this, but that doesn't exist. So we're going to have to use this one. That's a little bit too long, but we can cut that off as well. So just keeping in mind not to place it down to have this road pattern here, I'm going to place it as close as I can to make things easier for myself. I'm going to keep this one as a residential lot. I'm going to name it 0. And I'm going to be taking it down by 1 on the left side and the back, but I'm going to be taking it down with 2 on the right side. And then I'm also going to have to move it. Technically, it's going to be like this size at the end, just a little bit shorter at the back. So I'm going to be moving this with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 steps to the left, then it's going to be sitting on top of the other buildings. And there we go. Now we have the 3 lots that we're gonna need. So let's start this by doing the simple part in the community lots. So the first thing you want to do is screen off the space that you're gonna delete later with the LotAdjuster in order to not accidentally build anything on there. So just take a random floor tile. And of course, you're gonna have to use the Move Objects On cheat in order to be able to place it down everywhere. So I'm going to just stretch it out until I see the number 10 in the preview of the size, and then let that be the size. And I'm going to do the same thing from this end at the back, 10 tiles, and on this side, 10 tiles. That doesn't look like 10 tiles. Wait a minute. Now we go. There we go. Now it's 10 tiles. So the area in the middle here is actually the size of the lot once this is done. So it's not going to be a big lot at all. It's just going to be sort of the interior of the community lot. So I'm just going to go ahead here and place down a little box. It's going to be 8 by 8. And then once that is done, we're going to be using just the sort of standard constrained floor elevation technique by putting down a foundation that's 4 clicks high, and then a wall tile that's of course 16 clicks high. And then I'm going to turn on the constrained floor elevation sheet just like that. I'm also going to have to put down yet another floor here. And this is the one that we're going to lower. So I'm going to grab the terrain tools here, the elevation tools, and just this flattening one. I'm going to drag it all across this part. And that means that this is now 4 clicks high. And that is going to sort of fix an issue that you're going to have otherwise. And that is that the lot, like the neighborhood view lots, aren't positioned exactly the same as the in-lot view lots are. So unless you have this sort of mock floor in between the levels, you're going to have the imposter bleeding into the level that you're going to use. So this is just to make sure that you're actually going to be able to see everything. Because once this is done, you can also go ahead and place down a roof on top of this construction. Any roof will do. Just something that screens it off for the other lot. I'm actually going to use a black tile, now that I think about it, just to make this like not draw any attention to itself. There we go. I can turn off the constrained floor elevation sheet. I'm gonna delete these things, and I'm also going to remove all the floor tiles. And that is the first lot done. So I'm going to do the exact same thing with the other lot. And you don't technically have to use 2 lots. It's good to position them out to see how you want to move them, of course, but once you have done this, you can move it to the lot bin and then place several copies down so you don't have to redo the work twice. But for the interest of this tutorial, I'm going to do it twice. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing again. Just going to grab some kind of tile and dragging it out until you see the 10 on the preview there. Go to 10 and actually 10 this time. Good. And then I'm going to do the same thing. But of course, you know, depending on what kind of house you're building, you might not want to do the exact same thing twice. You might want to make some sort of variation. And then, of course, you would need to have 2 different lots anyway. So it all really depends on what kind of construction you're going to build. This is a very basic version, of course. So I'm turning on the constraint for elevation sheet. I'm dragging this out so that it lowers. I'm turning off the sheet again. And I'm deleting these things. I'm removing the tiles. And I'm also placing down a roof. And there we go. Everything done. So we're going to move on to the residential lot. There we go. And this one we wanted to make 10 by 10 by 20 smaller. So we have 10 there. And all the way over here, 10. And then 20 over here. There we go. So then we have this little lot left. And of course, you can make this any size that you want. The only important thing is that you're going to place down the construction on the exact same place where you have the construction on the other lots. So if you place down the construction one tile further back, you're going to have to start placing down the second level there as well, depending on what kind of house you want to build, of course. But in this case, we're just going to basically build a box. So you're going to start with just mapping out the lots that you already built. So it was 8 by 8. There we go. So this is what they're going to look like. And as you can see, we have a 2 by 8 tile here in the middle that makes this house not connected. And this is actually something that we can utilize, because then that means that we can use this as part of the house that we're going to build. So this is going to be a room in the middle, in between the community lots, sort of separating them. And this is going to be where we put down staircases or an elevator or whatever you want to have right here. Once that is done, we're going to do something a little bit funny. I am actually going to remove some of the floor tiles here just to visualize it a bit better. So we're going to want to make these walls 2 clicks higher. And that's also having to do with the same thing that I mentioned before, that the lot imposters are not like on the same position as this lot is going to be. So unless you change the elevation of the walls a little bit, it's going to look strange and it's going to bleed through your walls. So I'm going to take the terrain tool here and raise this with 2 clicks in a square. And then I'm going to put down a wall piece like that. I'm going to turn on the constraint for elevation sheet. And I'm going to drag this over and across. And now it's raised with 2 clicks. I'm going to remove the wall, but keep the elevation as it is. We're going to reuse it. I actually realized something that I forgot, but we can do that now. That's fine. So another thing that's part of the tutorial is how to connect several houses into a row house. And basically you're going to want to build a wall extending towards the edge of the lot in order to give that effect. You can either place it like straight here or one tile further in. It depends on what you want the house to look like. In the tutorial, Thread and Sandpaper put it one tile further in. So I'm going to do the same thing for this house, just to show you what that looks like. So of course now this is going to be a little bit wonky because I forgot to do this before, but we can fix that once I place down the walls. So So I'm just going to take a random floor tile, put it down right there, and that's going to fix the elevation of the walls. There we go. So even if you mess up something, don't fear, you can always fix it after. Okay, but once we've come this far, we're gonna do the same thing again, that we're gonna make a 4 clicks high mock level. So I'm going to put down the walls again, exactly on the same place where I have the other walls. There we go. And this is when we're gonna reuse this patch with 2 clicks high elevation. So I'm gonna put down a foundation and a wall. And then I'm gonna flatten this out. So now I can turn off the sheet, remove these things, and flatten the ground. And I'm actually gonna put down the floor tiles as well, so it looks correct. All right, and then once that is done, I can plop down some more walls here on the same space. And this is gonna be where the actual residential area is gonna be later when you sit down to play. And then you can make different kinds of roofs for this. Something that was in the tutorial was just a flat roof with some siding, so I'm gonna use that same technique for this. But as you saw in Veronaville, I used a normal roof that I lined up between the houses so that they have the exact same angle to them, so that they line up sort of perfectly. And that's also a reason why I prefer actually to have the walls one step to the left, because that makes that kind of roof look better, I think. But you can do it any way you want. So I'm going to be, also, of course, I'm going to have roof tiles here, because that's also going to be a part of the roof that's going to be connecting several buildings together. And then I'm going to be placing down a fence on top of this. You can use any kind of fence, of course. I'm just going to pick this one for simplicity's sake. And I'm going to leave this part open because that's going to be where the houses connect with each other. So we have this built, and the next part is going to be a little bit funny, something that you might not be used to, but this is where the unleveled walls comes in. So you're going to take this one, the unleveled wall, and go down to the 4 clicks high mock floor you made earlier. And you're going to remove these things and replace them with the unleveled walls. So this is a feature of this wall, that when you build something that is already elevated to a certain position, it's going to stay in that level. If you try the same thing with a normal wall, this would happen. Or if you had the constrained floor elevation sheet turned on, it would like raise the wall to its normal height. So that's a feature of this one. I think that was everything. I'm just gonna do this just in case. I think I started here, but just in case. Yeah, there we go. So that's everything here. And then we're gonna do the same thing on the first floor. I think I already did this. Now I did it again. All right, and there we go. So that is all done. And if you zoom in here and look at the unleveled wall, you can see that these little dots here, they mark out where the first level ends. And that is actually 16 clicks high, like a normal wall. So that means that when you put down windows and doors here, it's gonna just look correct. It's not gonna give you an odd hole in the wall somewhere where the mesh is trying to figure out where the wall is. So that's one of the pros of using this. But there we go. So we have this done. And another thing then that is going to be a little bit strange is that we're now going to remove the walls where the community lots are. So we're not going to have this wall or this wall or this wall at all. And we're not going to have any of these. And that's going to leave us with this construction right here. And that's actually where you are going to use the invisible fence. So in order for your Sims to not be able to walk just through this, they're going to have to act as if this is actually screened off somehow. And that's what you're going to use the invisible fence for. So I'm going to place down the invisible fence exactly where those walls were, so that the Sims can't access that space. And then you can go ahead and like put in some wallpapers. Maybe you can want to put in some kind of windows and doors. You can do all of that now. And the only thing that you are going to have to think about is that if you want to put down windows anywhere that's going to be straight, like close to the edge. So you can see here that there's just one tile next to the edge of the lot here. And it's actually going to be the same thing at the back of the house, just going to be one tile here as well. You should probably put down floor tiles on the edge here. That's going to allow you to move the windows around after you have shrunk the lot. In case you change your mind where you have the windows, you get like a second chance to do so before you delete the floor tiles here. So I'm going to go ahead and actually do that all the way here. And, you know, I can also put down a floor here because this is where the Sims are going to be. For some reason, it doesn't show me the floor tiles. So if I just drag the floors on the side here, it's going to give me these see-through things. Just do that. And of course, in this situation, I'm not going to want to have windows here because this is going to be sort of where the houses are connecting with each other. So this is just going to be like a blank space where nothing is going on. So in my case, I'm actually going to just remove this. But let's say that you wanted this to be the end, like the edge of this lot. Then you would have to place down floor tiles in order to be able to move windows in case you'd change your mind later. So I'm gonna place that in as well. So then we have that figured out. And I'm going to delete these floor tiles. And this is all we have to do in game for now. So I'm going to save this and I'm going to exit the game and open up the LotAdjuster. So here we are, and let's start. And I'm gonna pick my neighborhood, Foxbury. And here you can see why we wanted to name the lot starting with 0, because it's gonna go to the top of the list like this. And I mean, in this case, I don't have very many lots in this neighborhood, but in case you had a lot to go through, then this would be easier. So I'm gonna start with the one that's just straightforward, the first community lot. I'm gonna pick that one and go next. And then you're gonna start with clicking advanced. And you're gonna check enable shrinking. That's gonna allow you to actually make the lot smaller. And as you see in the name of this lot, I wanted to make 1 right, back, and left smaller. And 1 equals 10 in tiles. So I'm gonna go -10 left, -10 right, and -10 back. And I'm just gonna click finish. There you go, the lot was changed. And I'm gonna go restart. And I'm gonna select the second one, and that's gonna be exactly the same. I just forgot to put in a 1 there, it seems like, in the description. But it's basically the same. I'm just gonna move it 2 tiles to the left. So I'm gonna go next, advanced, enable shrinking, and then go minus left, right, and back. Then I also need to check this move lot so that that enables moving the lot. And I already wrote down that I want to move it 2 tiles to the left. So I'm gonna go left 2. And that's it. I'm not gonna do anything else. I'm just gonna click finish. and that was also changed. And then finally, we're gonna go with the residential lot at the top here. I'm gonna go next, advanced, enable shrinking, and we have 1 left and back, 2 right, and then I'm also gonna move the lot, and it's 8 clicks left. So I'm gonna click finish on that one as well, and the lot was changed. So that was done, and I can go back into the game. So once you're back in your neighborhood, you're gonna be met with something that looks quite like a monstrosity. You can see this is sitting really, really awkwardly. That's not what it's gonna look like when you go into lot view though. So you actually have to enter lot view and save and then return and do that for all lots for it to actually look correct. Because right now the game doesn't really know what to think about it. So I'm gonna start with just going to one of the community lots here. So here we are, and you can see here that the lot is actually sitting correctly and it has the right size. It's just that it looked very wrong from the neighborhood view. And another thing that you're going to notice in these lots is that there's going to be a lot of flickering across the terrain. And the reason for that is that there's several lots intersecting, of course. So the different terrains are going to try to blend and it doesn't work. So in order to resolve this, you're going to place down floor tiles. Of course, if you have like an outside like this with pavement and stuff, you can just put down a matching one. Oh, I have to just turn on Move Objects On again. There we go. And then since I have a default road, I can also put down a road piece, and that's also going to hide the flickering. So you see that that doesn't show anymore. And then these sides are just going to be sort of hidden with the other lot, so that's not going to be mattering. But then, of course, if you have some space that's like outdoorsy area or something, you can also cover up the flickering tiles with bushes or something like that. That's going to make them less visible. Something that Thread and Sandpaper recommended not to put in is a pool. Because that's gonna look terrible, apparently. I haven't tried it, but I trust that it's true. Another thing that because I reread the tutorial now that I actually was just sitting waiting for the game to load, was that I did this incorrectly with the roof. This is not gonna be covered with a tile at all. That has to be open. It's actually the level below, right here in between. This has to have a roof. So it's gonna look like this once you're done. And I also, of course, want to have the same wallpaper as I had in the other house. So I'm gonna just paint that in. And I'm gonna put in a door and some windows maybe. Yeah, something like that, I guess. Don't think this match. It really doesn't matter at this point. But I'm gonna change it anyway. There we go. Looking good. Okay, but that's pretty much what I have to do at this point. So I'm gonna go back out to neighborhood view and open up the other lot. And here again, the same thing. I'm going to put down the default road here. I'm going to change out the way that I did this. There we go. I can put in also the floor tile. Yeah. And I need to color the walls. And also to put in some windows and doors. I'm just gonna do it from the other way because the house is covering this part of it, so I can't really see what I'm doing. There we go, and I'm gonna exit out to neighborhood view again and open up the residential lot. And there we go, everything is sitting in its right place. And I can do the same thing here. Actually, there wasn't any flickering here. I think maybe, yeah, not sure why. But for some reason there was no flickering on the residential lot. Well, that's a positive, I guess. So I'm putting that down. I'm also gonna match the floor tiles here with the same. There we go. And I can actually put it here as well now that I think about it. And then you have this right here. That's gonna be the residential lot, a sort of in-between floor thing. And then Yeah, you can also, I probably should have put in a window before this. No, it actually worked. Okay, good. So apparently on the ground floor you can still always put down windows, and I think it's because there's actually floor tiles on the ground floor. That makes sense actually. But then I can still move these windows now that there's floor tile here. But if I were to remove these floor tiles and try to move this window, it would not want to go. But if I'm pleased with this positioning, I can go ahead and delete this. So now I can't touch them because if I try to move it, oh, it actually allowed me. Well, ignore me then. I guess, yeah, I don't know why then. That's weird. Maybe it's, I mean, I can't put it here now if I have it facing this way. But as long as you have the window on the correct angle, I don't know. That's just what was in the tutorial. Anyway, maybe you don't have to worry about that. But either way, you can see that this is now resolved. This is a normal residential lot, and you're going to be able to travel to these two community lots as the Sims are visiting. And of course, right now, this looks a bit strange because nothing is attached to the sides here. So the idea is that you would take this residential lot and then also the community lots, either one of them if they are identical or whatever kind of house you're building, and take them to the lot bin so that you can place down several copies, and then you can like put down rows of these houses so they look identical if you want to do that. Or of course you could change this out, remove the connection and just make this a normal end of the house. You know, this upstairs area, like this residential lot, is completely editable. Come to think of it, can you actually build walls? No. So the only thing that you can't do is if you try to, like if you remove these walls here, or the floor tiles right at the edge of the lot, then you can't put them back again. So if you want to change this out and make this a corner piece, you can't change that after you've done it. So you have to take that into consideration as well. Yeah, let's take a look what it looks like in neighborhood view as well. This is what it looks like. And yeah, if you are gonna want to go into the community lots, you have to hover a little bit specifically because as you see, everything overlaps. So you have to be very precise with where you place your mouse. But if you are in lots and houses, and then you're gonna have it light up in blue. And that's the way you're gonna see what it looks like. So of course, this can be built with any kind of combination of lots that you want. You could have like apartments on top of this if you want, or maybe you want like one of the downstairs areas to be a residential lot for some reason. You know, you can do anything with this. The only thing that I want to caution you with, maybe I should go into one of the community lots to show you what I mean. So as you can see, this lot is like really tiny and you have the lot imposter sitting on top of it. So the only way that you're going to be able to play with this lot is to have half walls or like no walls so that you can actually see into this box, sort of like a dollhouse. But you can't have like a bird view into the lot. So I don't recommend using this for anything too advanced. Like if you want to have a very advanced business or something like that, this is probably not the lot that you want to use for it. Of course, if you have a tiny one-person flower shop or something, that could definitely work like this. You just have to position the camera in a good angle to be able to work with it. But I wouldn't try to put in like a restaurant or something like that in a lot like this, because it would just be too limited in the range of vision that you can get into the house. So that's something that you can take into consideration if you want to do something like this. But that was it for this tutorial. I'm going to be releasing the speed build of my Veronaville build soon as it's done. And yeah, let me know if you try this out and if you have any success with it. And I would love to see some pictures if you try it out as well, what your houses look like. So thank you for watching this video. I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.